to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, January 17, 2023. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everybody. So I'm so excited to be back. I can't believe it. It's been a couple months. I know it has been chaotic as far as the show. My graphics card went down. I had to wait to get a new one. There was such a if you guys know anything about computering, there was just such a limited amount of graphics cards, and it was just a fight to find one. And anyways, we found one. We're back. It took us a while because we had to download drivers. The first set of drivers didn't work, so we're going to cross our fingers and make sure this show goes on without a hitch. But anyways, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. I am so excited for this year. This year is going to be awesome. I feel it. I just can't. I've been waiting for a long time for this year. Anyway, so also it was my birthday, so happy birthday to me back on January 9th. I won't tell you how old I am yet. I'm in my 20s still, just to let you know. But other than that, I had a nice quiet birthday. We went out to the Kava bars, bounced around, played some pool, and it's just the start of the new year. So speaking of new year, we are 3 years now into the jump. We have 2 years left, and I want to know how your life is changing. What is going on? What have you been experiencing? I know a lot of people have been coming to me, even people that aren't, conscious or into spirituality or really not into anything. And, people are coming to me and say, I don't know what it is. I'm just thinking more, and there's just so much going on in my head, and I'm just not happy with what I used to be happy with. And I just, have a big grin on my face and say, yes, because yes, that is, this jump is making all of us change, regardless of our belief systems, our evolution, wherever it is, it's pushing everyone to grow. And, how exciting is that? So tell me, write me, we'll give the email address as always, the links are, and plus the email addresses and the links, but write me, let me know how you're doing through the jump, and let me know if you have any experiences. I'd love to hear from them. Speaking of experiences, this weekend we are doing ayahuasca in Miami. And I know it's not something I normally do because, as I've preached on this show many, many, many times, I don't believe in taking things to connect to yourself and to connect to the universe and everything like that, because what ends up happening when you do need to rely on something to do it for you, you just become codependent on it, and you end up only being able to do it when you have it. So, but my guide Lori, which is one of the guides I work with, she actually pushed me towards this and said, there's some new information coming in order for you to access this, and we're also going to be giving you some new tools to be able to work with so you can help people. You need to do this. And I said, really? Am I set for it? Because I got to be honest with you, I'm a little nervous and I'm a little excited at the same time, because all the health issues we've been going through for the last 5-6 years, especially the last 3 years. And apparently my body's ready for it. So, it's going to be a little exciting. I'm kind of excited to do it, but a little nervous at the same time. But you know what? Hey, I trust my guides, and I trust that where I need to go and where I need to be and whatever it is. All right, guys, let's get into tonight's show. We are live, as always, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, DLive, and the replays are on the Facebook page. All right, let me see. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about perception. The title of tonight's show is In the Mind's Eye of Reality. And the reason why I titled that is because a long time ago, there was this videotape, and it caught my eye a long time ago. And I was probably in 6th grade, about 6th, 7th grade. And it was called In the Mind's Eye. And it was just like this trippy type of thing, but I didn't make the connection to, having it be trippy and that. What I saw in it was different forms of reality and different illusions and different ways of geometric shapes and things we're building. And where a lot of people thought it was cool, I looked at it as a deeper meaning. And what ended up happening was it gave me a new perception on life, because it allowed me to experience things, because I would always be looking around and I would see things like people as shapes and different things going on as different shapes and geometric. And I started noticing that by watching this video, it actually altered my mind to look at things in a different way. And, it's funny because I was obviously young. I never experimented with LSD or ecstasy or anything at that moment, and it kind of shifted a lot of things. And I started to realize that what was happening was that my perception in life and my perception of how I'm viewing things was distorted based on what I was taught. And this is so important for us to understand. I know a lot of us, we hear about perception and we hear about things that, the most basic fundamental thing is, what is perception, right? It's how we view things, right? It's how we see the world. So right now, you have a perception of how you're viewing me, and your perception of what you're hearing is based on your experiences and based on your evolutionary point and where you're at to be able to understand the material that's there. And that's why when, 1,000 people look at the same thing or hear the same thing, you get 1,000 different ways of hearing and interpreting things, because it's based on the understanding from experiences. So what that means for us is that many of us always want to have these outlandish experiences, these life-changing experiences. We want to be able to see things. And I have so many students, when they start up, they're always like, oh, Miss Raina, I want to be like you, or I want to be like this person that I saw on TV or this, where they are able to see things. And it's like, well, there's a lot that comes with those perceptions, and there's a lot for you to understand. There's a lot of things you have to go through in order for you to understand, in order for you to get to those perceptions. Many of us live a life in perception without awareness. And what that means is we see things for what it is as face value, and we think nothing past what we're capable of seeing. Now, this is very dangerous for most of us, because we don't learn. This is what causes us trouble. How many times, and I'm going to use this example, how many times do we get into a relationship? And I'm guilty of this too, especially when I was younger. Get into a relationship, you're attracted to the person, you're goo goo gaga over this person, they cannot do any wrong, and even though they have red flags going all over, you don't see any of them until maybe 6-8 months down, when the honeymoon phase is over. Then all of a sudden you're like, what happened to this person? This person's not the person that I thought they were. And it's because, we chose to see things in a perception without awareness. And so in order for us to be able to understand our lives, in order for us to be able to understand what's going on here, we have to learn to perceive things first without awareness, and then later learn to perceive things with awareness. And so why is it the fact of the matter of the two things that we have to have? And so if we have to have perception without awareness, well, that's necessary, because in order for us to understand what awareness is and when we have it, we have to live it without it. And this is something that all souls go through, is because in order for us to be able to evolve, we have to be unevolved, and we have to experience things in the raw form of nature without any guidance, or in the sense of like how, once you start becoming conscious, you start being able to talk and communicate with beings on the other side, different dimensions, etc. But what ends up happening is that before, you don't know, you don't have any contact, you don't know what's on the other side, you don't understand life. And so we buy into things like religion and spirituality and gods and goddesses and just whatever we hear, and we attach ourselves to all these ideas, money, fame, our looks, and etc. And it creates a lot of unhappiness, because our perception without awareness states that, well, I have very little experiences in my evolution, and so in order for me me to understand this, I need to be able to relate to it. I need to be able to understand and go through this so that I can move through this and I can start learning how to process thought. Because what is consciousness? What is perception? Everything that we're experiencing is mentalism, right? It's consciousness, right? So it's the mind. It's understanding where we are in our evolution. It's understanding what we're going through in our perceptions and our realities. But most of us, we become the reality because we don't understand what we're going through. And so our thought process is emotional upset, it's a chaos, it's all these different things that we're just into all the time because we can't take a step back and process, okay, well, this is what's going on in my life. This is something that is happening, and I need to take a step back so I can see it for what it really is. And this is what we call evolution. Evolution just isn't us, going from hairy ape. I know we're not really from completely from apes, but we're not just these hairy ape people, and all of a sudden just one day evolution did our hair off and we started speaking and standing upright and all that stuff. There's a lot more to evolution, and that means emotionally, mentally, and in our soul. Our soul has to evolve too, because remember, everything that we're experiencing is actually being experienced through what we call our higher self. And our higher self is who we truly are. So right now, how you're viewing me, talking to me, you are the higher, say you were me. You are the higher self of me. So what that means is you're seeing yourself through a perception, through these funnels, through these things where you can see, okay, it's almost like watching a reality TV show. And so the higher self, which is supposed to be the all-knowing, right? Which it's not, but it's the one that we look to talk to say, hey, what's really going on? It's because we haven't realized that we are that higher self. We're just projected in a way where we're seeing ourselves through a lens. So it's like watching ourselves on TV. So if I turned on YouTube right now on this monitor and I started watching myself, I would be my higher self because I could see what I was doing in a third-party perspective and gain the knowledge of what I'm doing, regardless of this character of what it's doing. And so this is the process of evolution. This is how we evolve, and this is how we learn to develop awareness. Because what determines what we can understand is based on our soul's experience. So our higher self, or our spirit, needs to create the soul and our body and house this body in order for us to experience all these things. And everything that's going on right now is perception. Everything that you experience from the time that you're born, even the time that you're in the womb, to the time that you pass on and go back home, and that is all perception, because it's not real. It's not real. That's why I titled the show In the Mind's Eye of Reality, because it's in the mind's eye of what this reality is. And so we're constantly creating this reality. We're constantly moving through and doing all these different things, and we're channeling this energy. And depending on if we're conscious or we're aware or not, is based on what we're going to be able to do. So for someone like me and the people like you that are starting to grow and starting to become aware of self, you're starting to realize that, wow, my mind's eye is seeing my reality, and it's being able to dictate and maneuver and change what I want to do. But the people that haven't learned this yet, those are the people that are always stuck in chaos and belief systems and these emotions that we call like anger and jealousy and sadness and grief, and they kill and they fight over money and all this stuff, and status is everything. I go to a place where I hang out, and I won't mention where I go, and there's a couple of people that, that at times they are really nice, and at times I watch them unravel into themselves, and then they come with these fancy cars and fancy shoes and fancy clothes, and they try to make everyone perceive them as the successful person, because in reality, emotionally, mentally, and physically, they're not the successes. But they'll come in walking, talking like they make trillions of dollars, and they got their portfolio that makes $500,000 every 2 minutes and everything, and they walk in this because what they're trying to do is they're saying, well, I don't know what perception is. I don't know what reality is. All I know is I feel without. And because I feel without, all I know is somewhere there's something about this perception. I don't like the way I'm perceived. So I'm going to try to fool everybody into thinking, into seeing what I want them to see. Now, most people who aren't aware do see what people show them to see. That's why people are enamored by like famous people and rich people and people with good bodies and attractive people and all that stuff. And they think that being successful and all this stuff, like they idolize these people because they think that the perception in their mind, their limited perception, their soul says, well, I can understand that. Because I don't have, that must be what I need. This is what I need to be happy, to be strong, to be respected, to be all these things. And this is what the soul is able to understand. And so even right now, there's going to be many of you listeners that are going to be able to understand some of this, and some of you may not understand it right away, but down the road. And then there's some of you that are going to be like, oh, I already know all this, and then tune out and actually miss the point of the reality, because the reality is, hey, I already know it all. And so we have to understand what we are able to understand, like what we're able to understand. What is our soul able to understand? What are we able to contemplate? What are we able to truly see? What are we seeing? Because if we're seeing something, are we really seeing what we're visualizing? Or is it something skewed based on maybe something that we're taught, maybe something that we've experienced in the past that made us feel uncomfortable? And this is something that I go through with many of my students all the time. They have an experience with something, and for the rest of their life, they deem maybe the opposite sex, maybe school, maybe something that they've done, maybe a type of worker, maybe something, and that family or something, and they don't want to do relationships because of something, and they deem something based on one thing. So what they're doing is they're creating this limitation. They're saying, well, my soul understands pain. Because we all understand pain. We all understand anger and suffering and depression, all that, because we have all gone through it. So my soul understands the anger, and I know that last time I've done this is anger or pain or suffering, or I was hurt for a while. It was hard for me to get over. So now my perception of the future events, even though it's all present, is now skewed. Because we've created in our consciousness a limitation that states that this is what equals this. If I do this, if I date another person, boom, I'm going to end up in a painful relationship full of heartache. If I do this, again, this person's going to do this. If I do this, back to this old job that I hated, if in another place, this is going to happen to me again. And so these type of things are one of those things that we need to understand for us to go through. We have to be able to go through this and experience all this. We're going to be right back after these messages from our sponsor.
With so many fads and gimmicks in today's world, it is crucial to understand the choices we make regarding what we ingest and apply to our bodies. Phytotanic's Herbothecary herbal products help make those choices simple and smart. They use only the purest sourced ingredients to produce superior quality products that your body will love. Their specialized crystal-infused blends are formulated to establish and maintain a healthy and radiant external as well as internal domain. Relish in the full line of natural organic ready-made body and skincare, and experience Phytotanic's therapeutic-grade essential oils, or get creative and combine their high-quality raw ingredients to create your own blends. Phytotanic's custom fusion formulas are clinically developed by a licensed esthetician to suit your individual needs. We pride ourselves on the promise that your products will be formulated and tailored just for you. Visit Phytotanics.com or call 813-402-2089 for more information. Give your body the natural, healthy look it's been craving with Phytotanic's Herbothecary.
All right, everybody, we are back, and so Halakon, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that the mic is better. I didn't know that there was an issue, but hopefully it is. Maybe I just turned it up a little bit. So, all right, so yeah, no, I don't know. Let me turn it up just a little bit. That's as much as I can go. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. If not, maybe it's something on your computer or something, because my staff says it's working fine. So anyways, but thank you so much for joining us. So anyways, let's get back into this, everybody. So this is what we have to understand, is we have to be able to see that, you know, that what we're perceiving is probably skewed in some sort of way. And this is what causes us pain and suffering in life, because we're able to not see this because of something that we've experienced in the past. And this brings us to our awareness. Perception is all about understanding, or is related to awareness, because what is awareness? It's the state of being aware. That means I am consciously aware in my mind, that I'm consciously aware of my experiences, just not even just internally, but externally as well. So what that means is, well, I'm seeing what's going on. I'm conscious of it. I'm seeing these things happen, but at the same time, I'm also on understanding of how I'm reacting to things, my actions, people actions, and these things going on. So this is something that we have to be able to understand. So our awareness turns down to understand that I have to be my perception. And so what does that mean, that I have to be my perception? Is that, okay, well, if I can't have awareness without perception, can I have perception without awareness? No, and yes at the same time. So if I can have a skewed sense of perception, which most of us live every single day, but if I don't have awareness, then I can't grow in consciousness. I can't grow to evolve, to pass through some of these things that we hang up on. And this is something that we have to understand to evolve to. So let's talk a little bit about perception as far as growth, because a lot of us say, well, Miss Raina, you know what? I want to grow. I really want to grow personally. You know, I'm stuck on these things. I have this idea, you know, where I see these things, but I always seem to get hung up on the same ideas. I always seem to attract the same things. Well, first of all, we are not attracting anything. Our vibration, what happens is we are vibration, we are frequency. And this frequency says, well, this is what I believe about myself. My perception of who I am is saying that, you know what? I either don't like myself, I judge others, I don't know what's going on, I'm not happy with my things, you know, I've had some experiences in my life and they've hurt me, etc. And so our perception now changes our vibration. This is why so many of us struggle to quote unquote raise our vibration, is because when we're trying to see our perception of who we are and we're at a low vibration of judgment and anger and all these different emotions, that clouds us who we are. And so we can't grow until we start to look at ourselves. And this is why it is so important for us to evolve into beings that are perceptible to who we are. Because again, this goes back to awareness. If you want to grow and develop, like if you want developmental growth and you want to grow to the person that you want to grow to, then you have to turn the mirror to yourself. And you have to say, okay, well, I'm not attracting these toxic experiences. What I'm doing is I'm seeking them out. And that's what vibration does. If you ever put two magnets together, you know, that are opposite, and you put them close, what do? They go at each other and lock, right? Because their job is to attract to each other. And vibration doesn't attract. It's not like it's like, oh, what's out there? And that what it does is it says, okay, I'm at this vibration, and this vibration is stating that I'm depressed all the time, I'm angry all the time. So it's kind of like a radar, and it says, where's the angry person? Where's the depressed person? Where's the person who's going to hurt me? Where's the person who's going to do this to me? And when it finds it, it goes, okay, I need to go over here, and it starts to pull at that. And what happens is, this is why we always run into the same people that hurt us or that are mean to us or whatever it is. This is why we become limited in our way of thinking, is because instead of seeing ourselves, we will put the blame, we will put our perception and say, well, you know what, that's not me. I don't like drama. I don't like these things. I don't want these things. And we create more of it because we're actually seeking it out because that's what we believe with ourselves. If you're here for a reason, and we have to understand that. And I know that sounds cliche to say, but everybody here has something to learn, even me. I don't care how old we are, how advanced we are here to learn something. And that's the wonderful thing, because we look at this third dimensional planet and we sit there and we say, well, oh man, life sucks. It's such low vibration. There's so much chaos. There's so much hate and everything around us. And I don't want to be, I can't wait to go back home and get out of this matrix. We hear this so many times. But that's a very limited perception, because this third dimension, this world that we live in, has so many things to offer. But we have to shift our perception, because what we're really saying by we don't like being here is I don't like who I am. Our perception of what we're experiencing is all based on everything about what we truly believe about ourselves. So if you're a person that is very judgmental or gets judged a lot, oftentimes that's to show you, hey, I'm judging all the time. If you're angry all the time, or you're seeing anger all the time, it's because you're an angry person and you're constantly trying to fight and argue with people. If you're seeing injustice in the world, it's because you're playing the victim. Remember that everything that you're experiencing in life is the perception of what you believe about yourself. No other thing. It's not that we're attracting it. It's not that it's just a reflection. Everything in the world is nothing but illusions, geometric shapes, and mirrors to show us to come back to who we are. Because in reality, I'm you and you're me, right? The only thing that's happening in this podcast right now is you're teaching yourself this information that you already know. But when you come here, you forget what this is about. And so we take roles as other people to teach ourselves so that we can have so many different experiences. Because isn't that what life is about? If we have 7 billion people in this world, right, then that means there are 7 billion different perceptions, different realities being experienced all at one time, but from the same source, because you understand that we're all one. You hear that and your mind gets that, okay, I get, but does your soul grab that concept? Because if you fight with other people, if you see yourself as limited, if you see yourself as anything other than the source, the God, the universe itself, and you see things as separation, then our soul doesn't get that. And this is where our limited perception kicks in, and we have to start saying, you know what? I'm limited in my perception. I blame people for things that I'm capable of. I don't do things because I don't believe in myself, because that's on me. And so this is something that we have to evolve to, because remember, as I was speaking earlier, the soul can only recognize what it's capable of understanding. And so if we have a very limited way and we refuse to look at ourselves and see ourselves and expand our consciousness and expand our awareness to more possibilities, then we are stuck in this thing called the matrix. And this idea of living here in the third dimension and the matrix and all that is probably one of the most uncomfortable experiences that you'll live. And that's the difference between what we call enlightened people, and I love doing my air quotes today, but that's the difference between what we call enlightened people and not enlightened people, is because what enlightenment's not really a real thing, but understanding who you are in self and perceiving yourself and seeing all your actions and be able to be okay with who you are and accepting things and understanding that any interaction you're having is teaching you something about yourself, no matter how chaotic it is. That's a hard concept to get, but that's what we call enlightened people. So whether you believe in a Buddha, a Jesus, a universe, or whatever, an Allah, and that any of the pagan gods, goddess, I don't know. There's so many religions and spirituality, or no God at all. But until you realize that these limited perceptions of your mind are creating every single wall you're running into, and it's going to keep doing that until you say, oh my God, that's me doing that. That is me. And, it's hard. I get it. It's really, really hard to sometimes look at ourselves. I know when I was younger, I was very good at sports, and I was a little cocky at sports because I knew I could beat you. I knew I was good at something, and it got to a point sometimes where I was a little egotistical. And people would say that to me. They'd be like, Miss Raina, sometimes you're a little egotistical when it comes to sports. And I was like, well, that's just what losers say. and that was my answer to it. It's funny, but it's not funny. And one time I just, I was in swimming and I got whooped really bad. I mean, I would beat everybody all the time. And I don't know why. I just lost. And I got creamed. And right then and there I said, you know what? And my dad even told me, see, there's always someone better than you. And I said, yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow. And even my guides, Lori, said, you need to look at yourself. You need to look at yourself and see what you're doing. You would just see who you truly are. You can't perceive what's going on outside of you if you can't perceive what's going inside. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And then, of course, they told me, self-reliance, like the old thing they always say, self-reliance. And what I had to realize was that every time I interacted with anybody, it was really teaching me how to evolve and how to see things in a different perspective, because that's why we really are here, right? We live in a dualistic world, right? Where there's a positive charge and there's a negative charge. And for those new people, there's no positive as in good and negative as in bad. It's positive charge and a negative charge, and it's a dualistic to complete a whole. And so in order for us to see the whole picture, we got to have different perceptions, kind of like if you cut a pie into a bunch of pieces, and that each different piece of the pie, and that is going to be different based on our perception. And that's exactly what we're doing. And so we have to learn to use our perception as a tool. We have to learn to use this to grow. We have to be able to say, okay, well, if I'm stuck on something, why am I stuck on something? Why? Because there's no such thing as being stuck. That's an illusion. That's a limited perception. There's the world, the universe keeps expanding. The galaxies keep moving. Our solar system keeps spinning. Nothing is stuck except here. And that's a very limited perception based on what is going on. And so that is something that we have to be able to evolve through. We have to be able to sit there and say, okay, I have this issue and I'm either depressed all the time, I'm sad all the time, I constantly, find dead-end jobs, et cetera, and I have to be able to, get through this. And so now we have to use perception for that. We have to be able to see things and say, okay, well, if I'm viewing things out of anger, let me remove my anger. Let me remove all these limitations of what I think happened, and let me see it from a third party. I don't watch reality TV shows because they're all low vibration and very toxic. But if you've ever watched one, which I'm sure most of you probably have, if you ever watch one, you can see what is going on about a lot of things, because you can see the people that are fighting. You can see what's going on. And that's the hardest part about it, is because you see things from a third person. So you're able to see what's going on with somebody else, but you can't see with that. And that's one of the things that we have to evolve from. So let me see. We got another question. Okay, let me see. All right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Yes, that's sometimes, we start out as sometimes we have listeners that start out that's like, hey, this is great. And then their ego gets offended by something that I say because they're not ready for this. And this is perception right here. This is actually good. Thank you so much for writing that. I'm actually, hey Lacan, I'm really appreciative that you wrote that, because what happened here is that our perception was listening. And at first you heard something that you liked until I started speaking about that you have to look at yourself. And this is great for you to learn, because anybody out there struggles with this. The moment someone tells you that you have to look at yourself and see yourself for something else, because a minute ago you were like, wow, man, you have such wisdom, have that. And the moment I shifted to saying, hey, you have to look at yourself, all of a sudden now it's like a totally different conversation. And I think this is wonderful. So this is something that you have to be able to see inside of you. Your perception just shifted because of something that you don't want to do. And this is something that's going to keep you in the loop all the time. This is something that's going to keep you in a toxic relationship or a toxic way of thinking, because this is a very limited way. And so I thank you for this. This is awesome. I'm glad you said what you said, and I'm glad I saw the evolution, because that's amazing, and that's really what that's what the point of the show is to do. So let's talk about, we kind of went through why people perceive themselves in there, and let's talk about the way people perceive other people, because, it's easiest, like I was saying, to see somebody else. It's easiest to be able to say, oh, well, this person's doing this, and that person did this to me, that person did this. And if we're going to be judgmental on something, kind of like what's happening right now, then it's based on who we are as a person. Because remember, judgment isn't about the other person. It's about us. When someone comes up to me, even like right now, if someone's judging me because they don't understand something or because they can't relate to it, that isn't a knock on me. It's telling the idea, and this is perception. So perception, how do we grow from this? This is great, because perception tells me, well, someone's judging me right now, or someone's judging you, and we can take that on, and we can take that personally, and we can be hurt by it, or we can understand that it has nothing to do with us. It has to do with them. And this is the most amazing thing in the world, because right then and there, our mind's eye of reality can shift and change consciousness into anything we want. We can sit there and all of a sudden say, you know what? I don't have to take this on anymore. Instead of taking it personally and getting all mad and getting upset over something or being hurt over something, you can see now that the idea is that this person or whatever's happening, in the thing, like if you go out to, let's say, Publix or your shopping center and someone's really rude to you, it's not about you, it's about them. But you can still learn about this, because you can perceive something from a different way. You can understand, well, this brings us to understanding, this brings us to compassion, this brings us to, love, because what this teaches us is saying, hey, this person was mean to me, and I'm not going to take this personally anymore, because I know now that it's not personal. I know now that it's not about me. The person might be having a terrible day. Maybe something happened. Maybe the person's just had so many things happen to them that they're just that they've just developed into a mean, angry person, because that's who they are now. And so our reality sits there and says, well, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be able to see that anymore. I want to be able to be who I want to be. I want to grow. I want to move past these ideas. I want to be able to see what else I can be and grow from this. And that's the difference between somebody who's growing and somebody who's not. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsor.
With so many fads and gimmicks in today's world, it is crucial to understand the choices we make regarding what we ingest and apply to our bodies. Phytotanix Herbothecary herbal products help make those choices simple and smart. They use only the purest sourced ingredients to produce superior quality products that your body will love. Their specialized crystal-infused blends are formulated to establish and maintain a healthy and radiant external as well as internal domain. Relish in the full line of natural organic ready-made body and skincare, and experience Phytotanix therapeutic-grade essential oils, or get creative and combine their high-quality raw ingredients to create your own blends. Phytotanix custom fusion formulas are clinically developed by a licensed esthetician to suit your individual needs. We pride ourselves on the promise that your products will be formulated and tailored just for you. Visit phytotanix.com or call 813-402-2089 for more information. Give your body the natural, healthy look it's been craving with Phytotanix Herbothecary.
All right, everybody, we are back. And if you're just joining us, what kind of happened, and I really want to bring this to our attention, is we had, every once in a while you get people that come in, start listening to the channel, and then something that they're not ready for, or something that they just don't want to accept yet, strikes a chord with them, and it offends them, and it hurts their ego. And so we had a Twitch streamer that was on, writing about this, and that, they were like, oh, this is great. And then the moment I was speaking about, you have to look at yourself, all of a sudden they started getting really nasty with me and the chat, and they called me a name and everything like that, and told me that I wasn't helping people and I was just speaking about a bunch of nothing. But that's the somewhat, and this is what's great about everything that I'm teaching. Her soul was not ready for what I have to offer. And that's okay, because she's not ready for it, or he, or I don't know. I believe it's a girl just based on the name. But this person isn't ready for this information. Their soul was not able to understand anything past that what they were ready to understand. And the moment that consciousness came in and said, well, you got to do something different and expand, a lot of times what people do is they reject it. And their reality says, whoa, I don't want this. I'm not going to look at myself. I don't want to be that way. It's everybody else. Because the comments were great up until I started saying, well, it's about you and you have to. And this is the hardest part about us. For those of you who are growing, for those of you who are accessing this part of consciousness, we have to remember that everything that's going on in our lives and what we're experiencing has to do with us. And it's our responsibility whether or not we're going to be able to help be able to grow and evolve and be able to resolve these things or not. And so in this case, and this is a wonderful example of everything, because, let me tell you something. No matter how much you grow, you're always going to get haters. You're always going to get people that don't understand, and you're always going to get people that are going to make fun of you and everything like that. And you have to be evolved enough in your own perception to realize what's going on. Now, if I was unevolved, I would sit there and say, oh man, I'm not this stuff. I would get upset at this. But my perception of my reality is, I know who I am. I know what's going on. I know what I'm saying to you. I know what's happening, and I'm trying to reach those people that are ready for this. And so that's because my perception sees things. And I saw this person go from trying to grow to all of a sudden instant ego, instant shutdown, and instant reject. And now I became the villain because she wasn't, or this person wasn't ready for something. And you have to let those people go. You have to remember, like how I was saying that, if someone's angry, if someone does something, you can't take that on because it's not about you. This person doesn't know me from anything. This person listened for like 10, 15 minutes to the show, and all of a sudden went from great, wonderful to yeah, okay, whatever, to all of a sudden, bam, you're a fraud, etc. And hey, that's the way life is. That's how life is in a nutshell. This was the perfect. I'm actually so glad that this person came, because this was the perfect example of everything that I'm talking about today. And so, when we see perception, especially in the world, because a lot of us, let's be honest, a lot of us are offended by what happens in the world, right? I hear, oh, there's snowflakes, and there's people that are too sensitive, and there's people that are too, rude and too this, and we're always fighting over everything. And then we see things and that there's wars and everything. We see things that there's chaos, there's protests, and there's rapes and men selling women and all these different things, and people shooting each other and killing each other over nothing. And to a limited perception, we sit there and we say, okay, well, the world's bad, the world's evil. There's a lot of evil. There's a lot of bad people in this world. Well, as we know, there is no good or bad, right? There is none of that. And so we have to be able to understand, and this is why I teach people, like my students, I ingrain in them my no words, because in order for them to change their reality, the things that limit our reality are my no words. And so you have to be able to sit there and say, well, I'm seeing the world in a limited way. I'm judging it based on either good or bad, right or wrong, etc., the no words. And I'm limited perceiving this because I have been taught to either say, well, this is good or this is bad. And so if someone's hurting someone, that's bad. That shouldn't happen. Life is supposed to be all peachy keen, and everyone's supposed to get along and be nice, and no one's supposed to steal, and no one's supposed to cheat on each other. Well, that's not the world. That's not our reality. The reality of the situation is these things are meant to happen for a reason. And every soul that comes here has to go through these things in order for us to evolve. And so if we see everything that's going on, if we see a war and we become so sympathetic, not empathetic to it, sympathetic, because sympathy, what is sympathy? Sympathy is the reality of attachment. So I see things, and if I see things in a perception of sympathy, that means I'm very emotional. I get offended easily. I probably cry a lot, and I'm probably sad and depressed a lot because the world has done something to me, or people have done something to me, and now the rest of the world. And every time I see someone injustice or something happening to something, especially defenseless animals, whatever, and that we attach ourselves to our idea, that perception of our reality just changed to a very limited, very chaotic, low vibration way of seeing things. And now we become emotional. We become this reality because our perception said, well, I'm emotional. I'm a victim. I'm these things, and boom, we go right into it. Oh, there's a war. Oh, those poor people are dying. Yes, it is sad. I'm not saying that it's sad when things happen, when murders, rapes, things like that, human trafficking, things like all that stuff. Things are, but you can be empathetic if your perception is more conscious. You could understand, well, as much as that. That's why there are people, like, let's just take a murder. That's why there's people that are able to have empathy and forgive the person who murdered their family member right away, because they say, well, you know what? I know that, this was something greater than I could, whether they believe it in a God or whatever. This was something that they were. So they understand that on some level. And the more you evolve, you sit there and say, well, yeah, well, that was a contract. Okay, well, it sucks that person had to go through it. Both people, especially the families and everything on both sides, because everyone's affected to it. But your perception changes because you see things in a different way. Okay, well, these two people had like a contract to understand, okay, well, I need to be murdered, you need to be the murderer, you need to understand these things, I need to understand, and all the people around me have to learn certain things. So we have to take on this role of being the murderer and the murdee in order for our realities and perceptions to grow, because that's how consciousness grows. This is how these type of things grow. So like I said, again, if you're always angry, that's because you see yourself as the victim. You see yourself as the world is doing stuff to you, and things are being done and things are out of your control. Expand your consciousness to say, okay, well, I'm not going to take these things personally, and all the things that I've taken personally, I'm now going to try to see. This is why even one of my friends today said, you know what? Well, what about past life aggression or past life regressions? Do they work? I feel like something's missing. And I was like, well, past lives, yeah, they're nice, but they're not going to really, do anything for you if you're not willing to see a different perception of of something else. And that's something that they had to, they were like, okay, like, and I could tell that. And so I kind of went into explaining a little bit. Well, what, there's a reason why you're unhappy here. And it doesn't mean that it's because of your past life. Everyone likes to blame our past and our past lives for everything. Yes, our childhood sets us up for, everything that's going on here in our adulthood, but we have to start changing our perception to the way we see things. So if I'm angry, well, there's unresolved issues. I have to look at that, and I can't see them as ooh, they're hard, or they're too hard to look at, or I'm fearful of them. I have to see them for what they are, and that means I have to start changing my perception and my reality from being attacked and living in a fight or flight mode to I'm in control of this, and whatever I choose to do, I can choose to do. I had a student of mine today, actually said, Miss Raina, I have noticed, we were talking about, their living situation. It used to be completely toxic. And they're like, I noticed all these people that were around me, all that were really toxic and really bitter all the time, are now not really talking to me, and we're not really connecting anymore. And the other thing that, even in my household, my wife and my mother and my roommates and everything are now all, are all getting along, and we're all talking to each other with respect, and there's hardly any fighting anymore. And and everyone's just calm. And I said, well, what happened? And this person, my student looked at me and I said, I don't know. And I said, well, your perception changed. You changed your reality. Your reality was a very toxic environment at home. And so you changed your reality of how everybody else is going to act based on what you changed about yourself. And so since we were working together to not be so angry and aggressive, now all of a sudden you go and not be so defensive. Now when something happens, you talk about it and you try to understand it. Your perception has changed from words attacking you and people attacking you to now, okay, let me listen to this person because we can resolve this. And my student was like, I can't believe how much this has changed. And I said, I told you, when you act in aggression, when you act in anger, or you act in being sad and depressed and all that stuff, it's because your reality is limited and confined to this very narrow scope that says, I don't like myself. I don't like who I am. I don't like my experiences. I don't like what's happened to me. I should be someplace else. I should have this happen. Why didn't my life go the way it is? And, and we're going to either blame a God or a universe or karma or somebody or something instead of taking responsibility for ourselves. And so we can no longer blame anything outside of us, because everything outside of us, like I said, is now the reflection of who we are. And just like this person who didn't want to listen, the moment I said, hey, you got to turn the mirror and look at you, it was an instant pushback, because that soul isn't ready yet. Now, maybe down the road, thousands of lifetimes from now, eventually this person's going to get tired of doing this exact same thing, judging people. I mean, this went from you're so wise and great to all of a sudden, yeah, that's okay. Well, yeah, I get that, but this is bias, and that's and then to like just flat out trashing me. And that tells me that soul only wanted to hear what it wanted to hear because its reality is fearful. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear anything that makes me point the finger at me, because it's all you. Everything is you. And they're always looking for someone to blame. So if you're doing this, if you're living in a toxic life, or you're unhappy, or something's just missing, or something outside just it's not working, or whatever's going on, it's because you're creating this chaotic reality because it's based on what you feel about yourself. And this is something that we have to truly change. All right, guys, I'm out of breath. I know this is a few minutes short and everything like that. I don't even have my notebook or my paper or whatever it is. I forget. We haven't done a show. Hold on one second. We haven't done, I'm losing my headphones and everything. We haven't done a show in so long. You think I would be, together, and no, that's not going to happen. Of course not. So anyways, guys, you know what? It was so great to be back. I'm so glad that the new graphics card held up. And for those of you who finished this video and watched this, thank you so much. And please share it. If you find value in this content, and somebody that would benefit from this, that is ready for this stuff, please share, because the only way we can help consciousness grow on this planet is by you also being part of our team and helping us grow as well. So, all right, guys, follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/transcendental transformation. Our YouTube is the same. Visit my website, soulandspiritguide.com, and sign up for the newsletter and get VIP access to hidden shows and guest offers when we have guests. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email me. Even if it's something like this person today, I'm a big girl, I can take it, but just let's talk about things right away instead of attacking. And at Transcendental Transformations, that's plural, at gmail.com. Always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a wonderful week.